Welcome to the PwC Business Success Podcast. With us today is Vinesh Maharaj. He's a director at PwC and the Smart Manufacturing Lead. Welcome, Vinesh.
Thank you so much, Frances, for inviting me to this very interesting and important topic today.
So we're going to talk about costing methodologies today. A lot of research had been done on business success and entrepreneurship and that elusive factor that makes or breaks business success. And we're going to talk about the costing aspect of creating business success. The GEM report places South Africa very low on the entrepreneurial monitor. In fact, almost last, just above Iran and Venezuela. Vinesh, what's your take on the business world and entrepreneurship in South Africa?
Yeah, France has been a very difficult situation, right? Economically, growth is low. There's high inflation, high interest rates, which then causes the consumer to be under pressure, which then impacts manufacturers and service providers. So there's multiple levers to pull. So either you can do lean manufacturing, which is reducing your costs, improving your efficiencies, but then that's not very well practiced in South Africa apart from the automotive sector. Then digital transformation is the next lever you could pull, but it requires CapEx and OpEx, which obviously with the financial constraints, that's challenging. So the actual lever you could possibly pull in the current tough environment is to actually look at your product costing and get very accurate product costing so that you can fully recover the cost of production or the service from your customer and not subsidize them from your overall gross profit.
So let's explore some of those costing methodologies.
So there's a variety of costing methodologies, right? So you can look at, depending on the complexity of your business, which industry you are in, the kind of manufacturing processes you have involved in that business, and then you can pick one of them. Now, the very simple one is job costing, right? This building we're sitting in the construction industry, had a very detailed bill of quantities for services and materials, and they could accurately work out what the cost is and their profit on this from the contractor who built it. Similarly, shipbuilding, any kind of customized manufacturing can use job costing because it's simple batches and you can allocate it. But obviously, there's a variety of other ways as well.
A lot of people in manufacturing use process costing, where the costs are accumulated and then amortized per process. But there's a variety of others.
Yes, so Francis, my favorite one is activity-based costing, otherwise known as ABC. Now, the beauty of ABC is that it defines your business in a variety of activities, and then you assign resources to the activities and the costs of those resources to that activity. So then when you're producing a product, the product uses those activities, and then you can then assign the costs of those activities to the product, even down to SKU level, which then gives you quite accurate costing because now you're fully recovering the overhead costs of it, of your operation, because most manufacturing have got very high overheads, as well as all your indirect costs, which then are now being passed on to the consumer of the product or service.
So there's variable costing where only your variable costs gets amortized across the units that you sell. And then there's also absorption costing, which is actually the one that is most compliant with IFRS, where your variable and your fixed costs are amortized. The thing is, there's only one source of money into a business, and that is the gross profit that you make on top of each unit that you sell.
Yeah, I wonder where so many costing methodologies came from, right? Because there's a plethora of them. And you also got like a throughput costing, you've got a fully absorbed costing that you spoke about, then you've also got the actual costing, okay, in addition to others. But if you look at actual costing, it takes into account the minute details of producing the product or service. Although it's the most accurate, is it quite complex and possibly expensive to set up and maintain. So therefore, we need to find the right balance between accuracy and the cost of ownership of whatever your cost methodology is.
And the complexity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to create unnecessary complexity in your organization because you may have somebody help you set it up, but then you need to maintain it going forward.
So the key considerations when people choose the costing methodology to use, obviously it has to be aligned with the company's strategy, it has to be compliant, and it also has to take into account the cost behaviors in your business.
Yes, so Because we spoke about such a large variety of different costings, it's just important that every business, particularly in South Africa or possibly in the world now, the tough economic environment, is to have some sort of costing methodology that makes sense for your business based on the points you just mentioned. Because what we are finding is a lot of customers do not have that in place. A lot of clients do not have that in place. And unfortunately, they are subsidizing their customers or their clients by their business, which then has an impact. Not a profit is an accounting construct, right? But cash flow is king. Now, if you can't invoice a client for the full value of the product or service you are providing to them, including your overhead costs, then you're ending up in a negative cash flow situation, which then gets into all sorts of negative spiral situations.
Yeah, ultimately, there's only one objective in a business, and that is profitability. Otherwise, there's no shareholder dividends and no sustainable growth in the business. So it is so important to amortize your costs, all the costs across the units that you sell, and to recoup that money. Like I said, there's only one source of business, and that is from your customers. So Vinesh, thank you so much for sharing your great insights with us. Thank you for watching, and make sure that you look at, to carefully plan and meticulously employ the right costing methodology for your business. The nature of the business determines which, whether it's like Vinesh said, a job shop, or batch production, continuous production, line production, or a service that you render. So consider those aspects and make sure that you have the correct costing methodology for your business. Thank you for watching the PwC Business Success podcast, and watch out for the next one, which is with the wonderful Jennifer Chetty-Feinberg on investing across borders. Thank you very much.